Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to Harry's Highlights. On this video, we're going to talk about the book, The Art of War. Now, this book is all about basically a guide to overcoming obstacles in life and business. It's a book that was written thousands of years ago now, but so many of the principles and lessons still apply just as much today. So some of the things I want to talk about in this is some of the fundamentals, the rules, the laws, the lessons that they have available here that you can apply so simply and so easily to different areas of your life and business. What I like about them is that it's really actionable advice. It's advice that you can take on and apply. It's not just good points or perspectives. So one of the first things I want to talk about, I'll bring up here, is about understanding that the first rule, or one of the major rules that I think that had a lot of effect that you can apply in your own life, is the understanding that the rule is not to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. Now, that's understanding that, like, if you don't have to basically choose your battles. So, because, like, if you imagine, like, a walled city, obviously it was written thousands of years ago, but understanding a walled city, and you were trying to break through that walled city, there's a lot of resources, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of hard work. Although it is like there's a result, there's a lot of value in achieving that result, it's the amount of effort and time and resources you need to put in to make that happen. Like, if it's avoidable, avoid it. And it's about understanding, choose your battles. There's times where that, like, you might go into a conversation with someone knowing that if you bring up this point, it's going to turn into quite a battle. That person will be reluctant, deny, all of this, basically, like, butt heads a lot. You'll spend a lot of time then trying to convince them, show them, like, what the problem is or where they're gone wrong, for eventually for them to turn around and go, okay, I see it now, and then you get this marginal or minor gain. So it's a lot of work. Yes, that gain might be very worth it, but it's a lot of work. So it says at times, you don't have to take every single city. You don't have to fight every single battle. It's at times it's understanding that, like, if I want this goal here, but there's this smaller goal here that I'll achieve by having this argument now. If I try to achieve this, if I have this argument and achieve this goal, then going on to try and achieve this bigger goal, that I've used so much resources, time, and effort on this smaller goal here that I'll attempt this bigger goal and I won't have enough capacity or effort to be able to complete it, or the energy to complete it, because I used so much already on this smaller goal here. But what I really wanted was the bigger goal. So it's about understanding that, like, do I want this battle here and not have this battle, or potentially not have this battle? Or do I just skip this battle here and just focus on the bigger battle? And that's what it talks about, understanding that, like, choose your battles. You don't have to fight every single one. Then the other one I talk about is that the lesson in it is that he will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. It's about knowing the right strategy. So for a lot of people, they might have a great understanding of a situation when the person's better than them, or the situation is very challenging, or the opponent, whatever it may be, whether it be a person, an entity, a company, a group, they're almost outmatched. They might be very good at knowing how to handle that one. Then they might be in a situation where the roles are reversed, where your opponent is inadequate, your opponent is simple or easy to overcome. The problem with that is that, like, if you don't know how to handle it, you might end up overestimating your ability, underestimating their ability, and then end up being defeated in whatever way or capacity that is, because you know how to handle, like, the big, the bad, the ugly, but then when it comes to something simple and easily achievable, you don't know how to handle it. So it's like you don't put in the effort, you don't put in the time, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're overrun, you're overcome, you're defeated. It's like, understanding that, like, if you imagine, like, if you looked at an ant, for example, you'd think, there's no way I would crush this ant. It's an ant. What could you possibly do to me? As soon as I choose to, I would be able to crush you. You look at a bear and you think they're like, okay, this is going to be really hard to handle, but I've done this before, I know how to get around this, I know where the weak points are, I can move out of this situation safely. You come to the ant, you overestimate your ability with the ant, underestimate the ant's ability. All of a sudden the ant, when you're not looking, not paying attention, it starts biting you. And you feel this extreme searing pain. And it's like a bull ant, something that's going to cause, like, serious pain. And or even a fire ant, for example. Fire ant. You think it's just an ant. It's, like, it's nothing. It bites you once. You're like, oh my God, like this extreme searing pain. It bites you again. You're crippled. You're paralyzed with pain. With something that was so easy to overcome because you didn't know how to handle an inferior force. You didn't know how to handle a situation that was different to what you're used to. It's about knowing the right strategy. About that will apply the same in life and business. When it comes to business and it comes to like, you might have some sort of competitor that's like beneath you, well beneath you. But before you know it, if you overestimate your ability and underestimate theirs, you never know when they might make through compounding and through just persistence overtake you in some way or some form. So that's something to always be aware of. The other one there is talking about that he will win who has prepared himself and who waits to take the enemy unprepared. Now, that's understanding that prior planning prevents poor performance. The 5 Ps. So it's a philosophy that it won't apply to every situation, but still a lot of situations where the 5 Ps, prior planning prevents poor performance, is extremely valuable. See, when you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So understanding that this quote about he will win who has prepared himself and waits to take the enemy unprepared means that you've put in the research, you've done the work, you've done your due diligence, you understand what it is you're trying to achieve, your enemy isn't. So when opportunities arise, you're prepared for them. It's too late once the opportunity's there to then decide, okay, I'm gonna make it all happen now on the fly. No, you need to be prepared beforehand. You need to know what's happening beforehand. And the enemy that's unprepared, that has that nonchalant sort of like wing it attitude, you'll easily overcome, whatever that may be in life or business. So the other one that I want to talk about there is about if you know yourself and you know the enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Again, it's about being prepared. Understanding that if you know yourself, you have self-belief and self-knowledge. You know the enemy. You understand their tactics, their strengths, their weaknesses. You know them and understand them. Not just aware of them, but know and understand them. And you know and understand yourself. Every time there's a battle, you don't need to worry about the result because you know it'll turn in your favor because you know yourself and you know them. But on that same note, if you know yourself but not the enemy, with every victory gained, you'll also suffer a defeat. That's because every time that you have a victory, the enemy adapts. Or another enemy that you didn't know was watching and adapted and seeing what you did wrong and adapts, and then you'll only know yourself, never knowing your opponent. So if you only work on yourself and you're only developing yourself, when it comes to the other situation, when it comes to like two people and sort of like, if you look at like boxing, MMA, or anything like that, any opportunity that the fighter gets to be able to study the other fighter in some way, their fighting style, their stances, their strategies, what they do at certain times, certain points, their tactics, they do that because they want to know their enemy as well as themselves, so they can then understand how to best handle that situation. But if they only focus on themselves, they only look at and they get really, really good at their strengths, minimize all their weaknesses, and they find out that that person's the complete opposite. All of their weaknesses is their enemy's strengths, then all of a sudden, because you didn't prepare for that, and you only prepared and polished and built on your strengths, you might win one time, but the second they recognize your weaknesses, they adapt. And the next time it happens, you're defeated. So it's understanding that it's important to have balance, because the next part of that one is that if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And that is because you've got a winging it attitude, because it's about self-belief without self-knowledge. Basically coming in with a high ego and arrogance, saying that I'm the best because I decided, but not actually knowing. And you don't know the enemy. It's like, I can defeat anybody and anything. All of a sudden, every battle you have, you'll be defeated in. Because that mentality, that winging it sort of attitude, that sort of basically just ignorance, is a surefire way to ensure defeat. Ensure that you won't progress. Because it's unwise, and it's a real immaturity in the way of thinking and handling situations. Now the other one I'll talk about there is that this one, I thought, understanding or explaining it this way, avoid what is strong and attack what is weak. Now how to explain that in life and business. A good example is that understanding that when it comes to a competitor, for example, let's say you're competing with a huge company. You have a business and you're competing with a huge company. instead of competing with them on price, you couldn't beat them. They're a huge company. Their ability to buy in bulk and negotiate deals would be far, far more than what you could do. Why not compete with them on quality? When you have these, like, for example, these restaurants, for example, that are trying to compete with big fast food chains, big fast food chain might do pizzas, for example, and they've got they're dirt cheap and they pump them out. They've got quantity. Then you can compete. So you can't compete on price because they're able to do so much because they're so big, but you can compete on quality. If you're using better ingredients, you've got better quality of service, people come there and feel like they're more than a number, they feel like a friend. All of a sudden, you're attacking what's weak with them and what could be strong with you. If you attack what's strong with them, understanding that you couldn't beat them on price, you're doomed to fail. It's too unmatched. That's what I'm understanding about attack what's strong and avoid what is weak. So understanding that in life and business is basically about looking at the whole picture and understanding, like, okay, moving my ego aside, how can I handle this situation or maneuver the situation in a way that I'm attacking what's weak on them, because everything has weaknesses, and avoiding what's strong. Because pound for pound, strength for strength, like, it's just not going to work. But if I can maneuver on what's weak with them, I'm able to overcome this or able to compete in some way, hold my own ground. So, to summarize quickly, I talked about and explained that this is a guide to overcoming obstacles in life and business, the art of war. The number one, talking about the rules to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. Pick your battles. You don't have to fight every single one. The second one was about he will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. Meaning never overestimate yourself or underestimate the other opponent, regardless of the situation. That way, you'll never be blindsided. The third one that I was talking about, that he will win who is prepared, who's prepared himself and wants to take the enemy unprepared. Prior planning prevents poor performance. Failing to plan is preparing or planning to fail. The other one there was about that if you know yourself and you know the enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles because you're prepared. You've done your due diligence and you've prepared in every way that you can prepare yourself and know the enemy. The other one was about if you know yourself but not the enemy, with every victory that you gain, you'll also suffer defeat because the enemy will adapt or other enemies that are watching will adapt. That understanding that self-belief without self-knowledge, that is where that's dangerous waters there. The other one that I was talking about that, but if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle because you are going in with ignorance. You're going in with ego and going in with that, like, I'll just win because it's me. Not really knowing yourself, not really knowing the enemy, not being aware of strengths and weaknesses. And last one was about avoid what is weak and attack what is strong. Not always you don't always have to look at the obvious things. Sometimes there's smaller things and smaller details that you can really capitalize on. There's a lot of great businesses that are formed by basically filling in the gaps, filling in the needs that bigger and better companies or groups or teams haven't been able to service. No one can service everything. So it's understanding how to service the parts that aren't. Attack what is strong, attack what is weak, and avoid what is strong. Now, by following all these ones and understanding these ones, you'll understand better about the art of war and how to overcome obstacles in life and business. Now, we're making a lot more of these videos for this training series to help you with your personal development goals. That's all for now, though. So, until next time, leave a comment below on what you liked the most and look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode of Harry's Highlights.